Hello, Whovians, and welcome back to the Who universe. And more importantly, I would like to obviously say I'm sorry for the Who universe to return since the New Year special. I've been kind of busy trying to sort some stuff out, and particularly one of the stuff I have been sorting out is in regards to the podcasts I'm working on. In fact, I have built a podcast that, by the way, the first episode will be going live at like 3 p.m. But to give you a summary of the podcast that I've made, which is called Respawn on the Spectrum, essentially am sharing my stories and experiences to basically give you an insight of what everyday life is like for people with autism, who are autistic and have autism like myself, in terms of everyday life and within gaming communities. And also, I kind of hope that it will help people better understand that basically understand autism and misunderstandings and essentially just make us feel more like be more welcomed, essentially. So if you want to see that podcast, there'll be links in the description for those who want to hear my podcast. I'm very excited, honestly, very excited about the first episode going out, and hopefully we'll see if we can get many people checking it out. I thought I would share it here, considering I haven't mentioned it on this channel yet, but yes, I have got the podcast going, and the first episode is going to be going out at 3, and I'm also working on the second episode, writing that, and hopefully getting that ready for next week. With that said, let's get back to the Doctor Who news, because today we had some massive news today. Some big news. In fact, some news that we've been waiting for a while. In fact, we've been waiting since Christmas of last year to find out what Film is Fabulous has recovered. Now, to give you a bit of a recap, in case you're unfamiliar with the whole Film is Fabulous Doctor Who conversation, essentially things go back to October, where Film is Fabulous, which has been a charity archive organization, had basically been set up to essentially give private film collectors a way for them to give their archives to an organization they feel comfortable films to, because usually in the past private film collectors would be basically they wouldn't give their films to the BBC. They wouldn't touch the BBC because they felt that it wasn't a really good process for them to hand over their films. But luckily, with this charity, they're able to pick up the films. They'll be able to catalog them and basically keep them safe for future generations, and also the respective parties that are responsible for the making of the film, particularly the TV companies like BBC and ITV, will essentially have a way to have access to the footage so they can broadcast it on their end. So then basically us lot, current generation of TV viewers, will have a chance to see them. Now, of course, since October, November in a way, Film is Fabulous talked about a collection that they were trying to get legal ramifications for, because obviously they had to do it legally to try and get this collection. But essentially, a deceased they basically got reported about a deceased has a collection of films. Were aware that there were some Doctor Who episodes that were a part of this collection, so they were particularly interested in getting their hands on it, which is rightfully so. And then later in November, they were sort of teasing on Doctor Who magazine that they were possibly getting ready for an announcement potentially around Doctor Who's birthday, but unfortunately that didn't happen because they were still trying to acquire the collection. And then in January, they said they were cataloging some films, made it sound like that they had the collection around January of this year. So sometime in January, they were saying they were cataloging some films that they had from a collection, which made it sound like that collection was secured. And then it wasn't until February, the end of Feb, beginning of March, when we were told that they did secure the collection with the Doctor Who film. And then one of the members of Film is Fabulous actually said that, he basically holded a BBC TV film can and said that we would all be happy about what they found later this year. So obviously they were very pleased about the recovery they received. And lo and behold, today we finally found out what those Doctor Who episodes were. And lo and behold, you'll be pleased to know that the episodes in question were the Daleks Master Plan episode. More specifically, the episodes referred to as Episode 1, The Nightmare Begins, and Episode 3, Devil's Planet. Two episodes of the Daleks Master Plan that have now been recovered by Film is Fabulous, handed over to the BBC, which, by the way, have said that they are currently getting the films ready for a BBC iPlayer premiere this Easter. They even went on to say they're even getting it ready for broadcast quality, which I think that might have potentially confirmed BBC4 is getting ready to broadcast those two newly found Daleks Master Plan episode and potentially the other Dalek Master Plan episode, part of a broadcast this Easter on BBC, potentially for BBC4. I wouldn't be very surprised if they're planning to bring them out around Easter weekend on BBC4, so possibly Easter Sunday, Easter Monday. In fact, they do say that they will be available on BBC iPlayer on Saturday the 4th of April. That is the day they're planning to drop it on BBC iPlayer, so potentially Easter Sunday or Easter Monday they could air on BBC4, so just keep your eyes peeled on that, just in case they do drop on BBC4 on any of those dates. They do talk to some, now obviously they do mention some stuff here in the BBC's Doctor Who website. They mentioned the fact that the episodes were thought to be lost were found by Film is Fabulous, a charity trusted by film collectors and cinema lovers and vintage TV veterans who approached the BBC archives after finding them in private collections. BBC archives have worked to restore the original 16mm telly recording, meaning that viewers will be able to watch them in the best possible condition on BBC iPlayer, which is really exciting. And in fact, the archivists go on to say, we're thrilled to have worked the team at Film is Fabulous to bring these lost Doctor Who episodes to viewers on BBC iPlayer this Easter. BBC archives have worked to restore the original recording and update these to broadcast quality to ensure that fans can enjoy a little extra treat with their Easter eggs this Easter. So lo and behold, this Easter on Saturday the 4th of April, you're going to be able to watch episodes 1 of the Daleks Master Plan as they finally are made available on BBC iPlayer this Easter weekend, which is, turns out that there was more episodes that was in this batch than we previously thought. Now, when I say there was more stuff that was in this Doctor Who Discovery, it wasn't basically any other episodes that we haven't previously seen before. It was basically stuff that was in the BBC archive that came back with better quality. So in an interview with the Radio Times, who was obviously a part of the Film is Fabulous team, she was given an interview with Radio Times and she would go on to talk about the other stuff that they found in this collection, where she said that actually it was 6 episodes that were found, but 4 of them were already in the BBC archive. But it's possible that they're better qualities than the ones at the BBC, so they're going to go back to the BBC anyway and be checked in for that. But there are 2 of them that are definitely not there, which is incredible. Now, of course, the other 4 episodes she was referring to question are The Survivor, which is episode 2 of the Daleks, The Escape, which is episode 3 of the Daleks. Yes, the first episode of the Web Planet with better quality returns to the BBC in the coming weeks. And The Executioner, which is episode 1 of The Chase. And she goes on to, and she actually told Radio Times that those returning prints, or sort of better quality prints of previously found episodes, are going to be returning to the BBC in the coming weeks. So that'll be really helpful. So it looks like we're going to be getting better quality of these episodes coming soon to BBC iPlayer, which is her sort of hopes for future recovery. She does talk about this because I know there's obviously going to be a lot of Doctor Who fans are going to be wondering, like, could there be more coming up? Could there be more to come in the near future when it comes to Doctor Who? Because of the fact that there's still 95 episodes still missing, she goes on to say, I like to hope that. I'm sure that they were all recorded at some point, sometime. There is a strong chance that they're about the place somewhere, and the sooner we can find them, the better. And then she also mentions that, you know, she goes on to say that she believes that this recovery will help encourage collectors to look at their collections by saying, obviously, collectors are human beings with all their different fables and whatever, but certainly from talking with collectors and using this as an example, quite quite often people don't really know what they got in their collection. This is where me and John Franklin of Film is Fabulous and I started in the first place, that collectors were not making lists of what they got. If they become ill and their families have nothing to go on, all they can see were piles of cans and they'll be tempted to throw them away. And then she continues, and the other thing, which is incredibly frustrating, is sometimes people just can't recan things. So the labels on the can might not actually be what it is in the can. So for Film is Fabulous, we have to spend a lot of time double checking what the film is. So I think it's quite likely that they could be in collections out everywhere and people don't know what they got. And with all this excitement, maybe it will get collectors scrubbling off marking lists of what they hold, which is what the whole object of Film is Fabulous was at the start. The television people used to use film laboratory as a lot of processing content, printing and developing negative. Possible that there's a pile of stuff in some old film laboratory somewhere, who knows. And then when obviously looking into the future, she goes on to say, it fills me with optimism that there's a possibility now of finding more, maybe not just Doctor Who, but other great television programs that are missing. So from her comments, I think it's safe to say that she seems very, very, like I said, she feels optimistic. More stuff is going to be found eventually, which makes me hopeful. This might not be the last we hear from Film is Fabulous this year specifically, so I still believe that there's probably going to be more coming from them in 2026, and I had that sort of feeling to read in the announcement that there was probably more to come from this team later in the year, and I won't be surprised we somehow in a few months come back to an article like this where Film is Fabulous ends up recovering another popular show, or maybe even some more Doctor Who somehow. You never know, that could happen. Nevertheless, it's crazy to think that, now that they're feeling very optimistic potential of getting more Doctor Who, it makes me kind of hopeful that we're going to see more Hartnell and Troughtons sooner rather than later. That's kind of what I'm hoping. We shall see what the rest of the year brings for Film is Fabulous and what other stuff will end up being discovered and whatever goes out there, and it'll be also interesting to see if collectors do step up, if they do decide to collaborate with Film is Fabulous to make their film cans available to the audience. I'll be very interested to see what these collectors are going to do now after hearing about this discovery. Hopefully it makes me kind of hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, they'll be a little bit more appreciated to want to let us see this content, hopefully. I mean, who really knows what they're thinking right now, but I mean, it makes me kind of hope good things are going to come out of this, and maybe now that, like I said, like she said in her speech, she feels like stuff like this could be seen as an example for collectors to kind of be more willing to allow some of the old TV content from TV's past be seen again for the first time in 60, 70, 80 years. It's wild. It's wild to me that, stuff like this could basically bring out more lost treasures that we never thought ever existed. I mean, it's very possible that more could be on the way, and we could be in for some unexpected surprises later in the year if indeed what she says ends up happening. So we shall see. We shall see what's next for Film is Fabulous and where they'll end up over the next few months, whether they'll end talking about another discovery, which I wouldn't be surprised. This definitely is opening the doors for more surprises to come potentially later in the year, whether it's Doctor Who, whether it's anything else. I mean, who's to say that they're the ones who end up finding more 60s Top of the Pops, for instance? I mean, that could happen. They could shock us and say, hey, we found some episodes of Top of the Pops that we never even thought existed. I mean, that could happen. So that's why I'm kind of just very interested to see what this team's going to do next, and who they're going to be looking at next in terms of finding lost media. Where will they end up in terms of the next couple of months? Who are they possibly looking at in terms of of collections. Now that they've got this collection out of the way, who's next is the question. So it's going to be interesting, nevertheless. But again, I'm sure there's a lot of Doctor Who fans who are very, very excited about this news. And I know I am for sure, because I'm certainly going to be watching these when they go out at Easter, and we'll obviously have our reviews of them for sure, along with Savages of the Celestial Toymaker, and we'll also try and finish off our 20 years of New Who stuff that I was meant to finish off at the start of the year, but I'm going to make sure to get those done. Hopefully maybe even after Easter, we'll work on those. Yeah, there's a part of me that's probably gonna, we'll probably end up coming back to this conversation eventually during the year and see what other stuff Film is Fabulous ends up as the year progresses, because I mean their website, they've already done some discoveries even before Doctor Who. They found like stuff from ITV, past stuff, other stuff from BBC was found from them. So there is potential that there could be some more ITV stuff that they'll end up bringing back, and more stuff from BBC's past that they'll end up bringing back as well. So it's, who really knows what will end up here in the next couple of months? Who knows? But again, let me know in the conversation if you're excited for the recovery of the Daleks master plan. But thanks so much, and I'll catch you guys pretty soon.